Greetings and salutations. Class Retard here. Today my plight is related to a video I made before called How to Perfectly Optimize Your Damage in Skyblock, or something along those lines. I don't really know. It's similar. You can probably find it if you search that, but whatever, that's not the point. In that video I thought I figured out the best way to increase your damage. You just do everything forceful and you get strength and it just makes you deal like 30k a hit, and it's like, oh, big damage. No, I was wrong. Unfortunately, my mistake was thinking that strength was all important just because it scales more. And yes, I'm gonna say scales more. I'm not gonna say it scales faster. It scales more. Over time, it gets bigger, whereas crit damage is completely linear. I thought that meant that strength was just better, and it didn't. So, my whole premise for that video was just saying, oh yeah, strength reaches a certain point, yep, everything going into strength. But what I didn't think about was that your damage actually increases more if you kind of alternate which stat you upgrade. So, Reforgers will always tend to prefer crit damage. You'll get a lot more crit damage than you will strength. I think it's fair enough because strength is, so I guess potent. And so what you should be doing with your damage is that you should actually be increasing the stat that is, well, lower. Not lower every time. With crit damage, definitely when it's lower, but what actually happens is, since both of them are factors in your final damage output, you want them to be making about the same contribution. And I say about the same, not always the same. And what happens is, you'll actually deal more damage if you increase the smaller one, because usually, if something is smaller, then the same increment will be like a higher percentage of the amount you're increasing. So like increasing, if you have 300 strength and 100 crit damage, that means that on a crit you're dealing double damage and your strength is just 300. If you would increase either one by 10, originally I would have said that strength, go for it, but crit damage is actually better here, because if you're dealing double damage on a crit, increasing that by 10% means you're increasing it by 1/20th. Whereas increasing strength by 1/30th increases your damage by around, I'm gonna say maybe 1/28th, 1/27th. It's better, but crit damage, it just has more of an increment. And so that would be causing your final damage to increase by more than if you were to put it into strength. So now, that all-powerful method. Why am I so shit at English today? The all-powerful method I derived last time is not actually that powerful, of course. I liked it because it was mathematical, and it was just a very neat conclusion. Unfortunately, it was wrong because of the reason I just said. If you want me to, kind of go more in-depth about it, then you can ask me. I will clarify. But if you increase, whichever one gets increased by more, like, as a factor, you should be thinking it as factors rather than, addition. Because if you've got, like, 1,000,000 strength, and you increase it by 1 or something, that'll be better than increasing your crit damage by 1 if your crit damage is literally 1, because then you'd be dealing double damage. Or not double, whatever. That's completely wrong, but... But I hope you get what I mean. So, the new method is honestly terrible. I hate it. It's really, really unsatisfying. It's just really boring. The maths are lame. So what you want to do, you get up your Google. You want to search Desmos. Well, this is what I do, of course. You can just use your Windows calculator if you want. I can show you how. But you'll want to put in the damage equation. So it's 5 plus your weapon's damage. Mine deals 220, so it's 225, fuck, plus strength over 5. Now, depending what you want, if you're using a calculator, just put your strength in. But if you want to see how your strength changes your damage over time, then you put in X in Desmos here. I prefer doing that, but you can just calculate it if you want. I'm retarded, see? Class retard. Plus 1. Strength of 100 plus 1. Multiply that by 1 plus whatever your crit damage is. And I think mine's like 4.4. And the reason is because crit damage adds. Because you start off with 50% crit damage, and it's more than your non-crit damage. So it has to be additive. So now, just adjust the graph. This will depend, but I will go till 700. And the y-axis, I will go till 20,000. There we go. So this is the trend in damage over time as I increase my strength with whatever, with this amount of crit damage that is set. Now, this is the same method for if you want to use it without the trend line, but you're going to copy it, and if you're going to reforge something, and yes, you need to do this for every reforge, or at least it depends, but most reforges, you'll need to do this, and this is just to check which one actually deals the most damage. You put in the stats for that reforge. So we'll be seeing if I want to keep my strong bat artifact as strong. So this is with, this crit damage is with all my armor, and I don't have it on right now. But we're going to change the stats, so it's -5 strength, -5, and +5 crit damage. So this is crit damage as a, just as a whole number rather than a percentage. As you can see here, the lines intersect, but I'm not really concerned about that. My strength is around, it's in this area. So I'm going to zoom in, and as you can see, I deal more damage with the bat artifact as strong rather than as itchy. Because the lines above it, it's a higher value. It's very, very, very small increment, but it's still more damage, and I will take that. So now, as you saw earlier, here we go, the lines do intersect here. This means that after this point, itchy actually becomes better than strong. Kind of see the there's a bit of red creeping out under there. But itchy actually becomes better than strong after a certain point. Where is it? And if you were to just use your calculator, then you wouldn't be able to find this number there. So you wouldn't be able to kind of prepare for the future, I guess. Of course, 680 strength is very far off, so I wouldn't worry about it. But this this method is very unpleasant, of course, because you got to check with every single reforge. Got to manually do it by hand, check everything bit by bit. However, this man, Not Melon, he has done the world a favor. He has made an application that asks how many talismans you have, whatever, all these clarifying questions, and then does all the brute forcing for you. He made it into a Discord bot. I will link this thread in the description. And what it does is it will just find every single scenario, like with all the reforges, all the good reforges for damage that is, and then it will just spit out whichever one has the most damage. Unfortunately, there is no, he didn't make it such that it can predict the future with little intersections like this, where all of a sudden the meta shifts slightly, but I'd still recommend it. I don't use it, I just find it. I just prefer doing things slowly by hand here, because I prefer thinking, but it's very easy here because it just removes all that work and has a calculator do it and just calculate everything. And so it's pretty much the same, except it's just a calculator doing it rather than you doing it by hand. So that's it. That's how you do it. I hope I corrected my mistakes from before, because this did actually increase my damage by quite a bit. Before I changed my reforges, it's actually, I'm gonna say, when I first made everything, like, forceful, my damage actually increased by, like, what, a good amount, by like 10%. That was when I was in unstable, so, I mean, strength would have been pretty good because I didn't have much of it. But, when I switched to strong, I found out that I could be dealing more damage if I changed my reforges to be itchy. Or most of them to be itchy. And it did increase my damage. However, the stupid thing that I don't get is, I also increased my damage when I was in unstable, and I do not understand that. I don't get it. I really don't understand, because everything being forceful before with unstable, that already increased my damage from when everything was itchy. But then increasing it again when everything is now itchy again makes absolutely no sense. So I'm gonna leave the I'm just gonna conclude by saying that Hypixel can't math. So I'm very sorry for any potential grievances I may have caused, you know, like unnecessary reforge costs or like dealing less damage, but it wasn't intentional, so I do apologize for that, you know. But I do hope to retain your viewership. It is much appreciated, and I guess until next time, I say adios.